Facebook go live. Let's do a check on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give me a count too, Greg, if you can. Let's do a check on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give me a count too, Greg, if you can. Right, that sounds good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Count too, Greg, if you can. That sounds good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That sounds good. If my levels are good with you, we're good here.
We'll just have to make it work. This is something we don't want to be doing this soon before the show starts. Hang on.
All right.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
And here we go. It's a Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. The first hour of the program is upon us. It's going to fly by, so make sure you buckle down. It always does fly by. Welcome inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me. Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day here on the CZ microphone. All being brought to you, of course, by the great National Rifle Association here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing? Welcome back, I should say. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing pretty good. Here we are, another Sunday gun day.
So you back from a little bit of a vacation, which is cool. Did you get all rested up? Feeling good?
Yeah, I had a great time, and yeah, plenty of rest.
No scuba diving. You went like caving and stuff.
Yeah, we were out at Carlsbad Cavern, and we tried to get over to Roswell. Didn't quite make it. I wanted to have some good stories for Andy tomorrow, but we just didn't make it. And so, yeah, we went into all the caves and stuff, and here we are.
Yeah, it'd be just your luck. You'd actually find a piece of a spaceship that they overlooked all those years ago. Wouldn't that
Yeah, and then the FBI would be looking at my names
you
for
don't,
another
you don't
reason.
need that. I'm in the ATF all over you. Guys, we're live on Facebook, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. If you want to watch the program, you can do so over there. Facebook.com. Please like and share the post if you do. Enjoy the social media live video streams. We appreciate it very much. Greg, I'll let you do your spiel now that you're back in the chair. And we'll get going with our first guest, Stephen Gutowski, and I'll give you some insight when we go to Stephen real quick.
Sure. Other places you can watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. On X, we're at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live, listen live options. To join our live chats, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, and right before we go to Stephen, I just want to mention, a lot of you had seen social media posts earlier. We're expecting the black man with a gun himself, the Reverend Kenn Blanchard, to make a return appearance on the program today, but he had something come up at the last moment, can't do it. So we go to Stephen Gutowski, founder of The Reload. Stephen Gutowski, former CNN contributor, who I just happened to see on CNN last week. How you doing, Stephen? You want to explain how that one works? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Well, it seems like a bit of an industry-wide thing where they want us to do these things for free now instead of paying us. So I don't know how tenable that is, but maybe once in a while I can make it work.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did, because you had a great conversation over on CNN. In fact, I responded to you right away, and I said that was a really good hit. You and I talked about it today. It was a really good hit. Which, coming from a gun perspective, pro-gun rights and all that stuff, you don't really see a lot of that at CNN. But you brought, as you point out yourself on your page, sober reporting about firearms, and you just lay it on the line. But it was a very unbiased interview. It was very good. She allowed you to speak, and you answered her questions, and I think probably, I would say maybe changed a lot of minds. A great job over there at CNN. So we can still expect to see you over there from time to time, giving the pro-gun perspective, right?
Yeah, most likely. At least I have respect for these shows that I go on, and the producers and hosts. They, as you outlined there, they tend to take me seriously and give credence to my expertise in this topic, and so I appreciate that, and I like to help them improve their coverage whenever I can. And so, it is rough to try to like work for exposure or work for free, but. If someone else offers me another contributor gig, I probably would have to take that. But
well, yeah.
But in the meantime, yeah, I'm happy to go on outlets that want me on.
Well, yeah, and we need you over there too. So congratulations, it was a really good job. All right, Stephen, let's talk trans. Let's just go there. This is going to be a subject throughout the night tonight, ladies and gentlemen, here on Armed American Radio. But Stephen, as you know, there's been a push. Well, I don't know that it's a push, and this is what I want to talk with you about, because I do have some theories here. You never know what's going on in Trump's mind. But there's talk now coming out of Washington and the White House that trans people should be denied their Second Amendment rights. Now, let me go on record right now and say that that's a bunch of garbage as far as I'm concerned. You don't blanket wipe an entire group of people's gun rights out because of the actions of one individual person. If that were the case, we'd have no gun rights in this country. And I'd like your take on that. What do you think is going on here? Is there anything behind the scenes happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, first off, I think you're far from alone in that point of view. And we've seen every single major gun rights groups, from the National Rifle Association of Gun Owners America, Second Amendment Foundation, you name it, everyone has come out and said essentially the same thing that you just said there. So the gun rights community is pretty unified on this question, at least as far as like this. And again, as you mentioned, we don't have a lot of clarity on this. It's just a report that's come out. Some DOJ officials are talking about this.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily Donald Trump has not said anything to this effect himself. We haven't had anything official from DOJ, but there's been multiple reports from both conservative and mainstream outlets saying this is something the DOJ at least is considering. And as far as I think it would be really hard for them to actually get something like this into practice and not run into immediate constitutional issues in the courts, right?
Yeah, well, there's an interesting, and I have seen this discussed in some forums as I was, perusing all this and thinking about this. And you're right, I'm not seeing a lot of support for this out there. And I can hear people now when I said, because of the actions of one person, I could name 10 quote unquote trans shooters recently in mass killings. But we've got to look at the bigger picture here, okay? This administration is great at putting the Democrats on their heels, getting them to defend the indefensible. Could it possibly be that this is a push so that the Democrats are now being forced to protect one of their constituency groups, to protect their Second Amendment rights? Could that possibly be up the sleeve of Donald Trump? Because it certainly is a possibility with Trump.
I think it is a possibility that this is some sort of trolling effort, right? You've seen kind of more of the administration and lower level officials, even press people in the administration this time around, be more willing to kind of openly troll. Mm-hmm. And the reason I could see it in this case is because if you read the quotes from the main DOJ official who was, speaking to. I think the first report was from the Daily Wire, a conservative outlet, and they had a line in there about how Democrats say they believe in common sense gun control, and this seems common sense to me. That's what the official said, and so that obviously has a bit of a trolling, joking angle to it. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the case. I've talked to one official, one administration source, and I get the impression that it's maybe more of like your gun rights, your dedicated gun rights people in the administration, which certainly exist. And, there have been a number of things that we've seen the administration do this time around, through the ATF and DOJ that are probably even more, I would say, aggressive on the gun rights front than the first term. And so there's clearly, and I think that's a personnel thing, like you've seen more people from the gun rights movement as part of this administration than the last time around as well. And so those people don't like the idea, from what I've heard, are very opposed mm-hmm. to it. But there's some people who are not as committed on the gun rights front, who are maybe more willing to take this idea seriously. So from what I've heard, and look, that's just one source, so it's not something I'm super confident shouting from the mountains about, but it could be a trolling effort. It could be a serious effort. It's hard to say right now, and I think we'll have to wait to see if they do try to push forward on it. But this unified pushback they're getting from all of the gun rights groups, might make even the people who are willing to consider it think again about it.
It's an uphill climb, regardless. If I'm asked to put money on it in Vegas at a casino, I'm going to put it on the trolling. Because it would make sense, and it does make sense. It's just another way to force the Democrats to do something that they don't want to do. They do enjoy, they do absolutely enjoy supporting criminals and illegals and all of that nonsense. That's part of their platform. It has been for a number of years. But forcing them into a corner to support gun rights would be fascinating to watch. But that would be where my money is. This Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms has a press release out that you're familiar with. And I'll just take us to the break with the 30 seconds on this. We've come back. We've got one more segment with Stephen Gutowski. But from the CCRKBA, DOJ shouldn't ban guns for trans people over individual crimes. Prohibiting whole groups of people from owning and using firearms because a sick individual misused a gun to harm and kill children is as reprehensible as restricting the rights of all law-abiding citizens because some people have committed crimes. That anyone in the Trump administration would consider such nonsense is alarming. And Gottlieb continues, gun owners already know what it's like for the government to penalize them for crimes they did not commit. We shouldn't even consider such an extreme response to heinous act committed by one disturbed individual, much less implement, no matter how horrible the crime. The deranged Minneapolis killer is no longer a threat to anybody, and we needn't make scapegoats of others who had nothing to do with this outrage just to create the impression something is being done. We'll be back. One more segment with Stephen Gutowski. Don't go away. The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back indeed. You're on the Armed American Radio Network. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And on the Sunday show, we're coming to you live across the country on hundreds of radio stations here in the Car Firearms Group studios. The CZ mic is fired up for you here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch, and it's all being brought to you, of course, by the National Rifle Association. You just heard that rejoin. I'm going to ask you again, please join the National Rifle Association. Just come off their board meetings. A number of folks in attendance up there. I spoke with the NRA last week. A lot of people up there who were highly critical of the NRA, like myself. A number of you over the last few years have come out of those meetings absolutely thrilled with the direction of the National Rifle Association. And guys, we need your help to continue to grow the NRA. No doubt. The 800-pound gorilla in the room. We need to make it the 1,000-pound gorilla. It's real simple to do. And if you join for a 1-year or 3-year membership, I'm going to send you a range bag, an NRA range bag, for free. No contest. You're going to get it just for joining or renewing your membership to the NRA. Don't matter to me if you donate any more money. It's $35 for the 1-year membership. Take advantage of that. Get the range bag and join us. You'll really appreciate the direction the National Rifle Association is moving hand in hand with the other big gun rights groups across the country. They are doing great work, new management, new direction. Please support us, won't you? NRA.org/AAR, NRA.org/AAR. 1 to 3-year membership, free range bag, 5 to life, and you're going to get the free binoculars, the 10x42, super high quality with the lens caps and the case itself. Okay, so help us out. NRA.org/AAR. Let's go back to Stephen Gutowski, founder of The Reload and former CNN contributor who was just on CNN. Stephen, welcome back in, brother.
Hey.
All right, 8th Circuit. You've got a piece up today on The Reload. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you can see everything Stephen writes at thereload.com, thereload.com. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you join over there. I've been a member over there since pretty much day one, and Stephen does great work. Gun rights restoration dealt setback in 8th Circuit. This is out today. A 3-judge panel on the 8th Circuit has ruled against a felon who was trying to force Iowa to hear his gun rights restoration claim. What's going on here in the 8th Circuit, Stephen? Can you give us the deep dive real quick?
Yeah, I think this is one of those cases that speaks to a larger issue, which is, rights restoration. Obviously, the DOJ, as you alluded to earlier, that the second Trump administration has done a number of things on the administrative side that are fairly pro-gun, or very pro-gun in some cases, and rights restoration is one of them. They've started the process of renewing this rights restoration program that's been shut down for 30 years. It's been defunded by Congress for like 30 years. Mm-hmm. And, that's something that obviously has been a big fight in the last couple of years, really since Bruin especially, over this idea that some people who are convicted felons shouldn't have their rights stripped for the rest of their life. This has been a fight in the courts, especially for, in particular, nonviolent felons. And you've seen court cases over this, but you've also seen the administration try to do something about this on the DOJ side. And the interesting thing about this 8th Circuit case is, this guy was trying to get his rights restored in Iowa. Now, he was involved in a violent crime, so there's a little bit of a caveat with his situation. But, he was somebody who's lived decades since then and had a good record and hadn't reoffended and had some of his rights restored, at one point by a previous governor. But he wanted to try and have his gun rights restored as well. But in Iowa, the state level, the state law there for rights restoration doesn't leave room for people with his criminal history. And so he sued and said, well, that violates the Second Amendment. I should at least be able to go through the process. He argued he couldn't even legally go through their state level rights restoration process. And this court said, no, it doesn't violate the Second Amendment, that, Iowa's rights restoration process doesn't allow certain kinds of convicts to go through it. And they used the logic we've seen before in this fight over felons and rights restoration, mm-hmm. which is the idea that if some felonies at the founding, most felonies at the founding Now they had a much shorter list of what was a felony than we do today, but the punishment could be death, and oftentimes was death. It was execution, and so the theory, or the political, or the legal theory as well, if they would have executed you at the founding for your crime, then stripping you of your gun rights, even for the rest of your life, is comparable, or even lesser, and so it's not implicated by the Second Amendment. Obviously, there's a lot of disagreement over this, but that's been one of the ways that courts have handled this, and so that's what the court said here. But in regards to even the idea that Iowa's law, like this person could even apply for rights restoration, he doesn't even have the ability to do that. So it does somewhat call into question at least this DOJ approach, where they're really trying to accomplish this rights restoration goal through administrative, rulemaking and administrative procedures, whereas you'd seen gun rights groups had wanted to do it through the courts, right, with the Range case in Pennsylvania, for instance. And DOJ has opposed that, and they've said, we've got this process where this is how we're handling. We don't think the Supreme Court should take time to do this, and you should focus on. We're going to focus on doing it this way instead. And so it's just a case that maybe suggests that there's some weakness to that effort. If your goal is to, like, if you're somebody who wants to see, certain felons at least be able to get their gun rights back, this just speaks to one of the weaknesses in the current DOJ approach for that.
Yeah, the case is Brown, ladies and gentlemen, v. Reynolds. And as you point out in your piece over at thereload.com, Stephen, and I could go to the Rahimi case as well, a lot of these plaintiffs are not good people, okay? So it makes there's interesting twists to this because, as you point out, and I'll quote, to be sure, Anthony Brown is by no means the most sympathetic plaintiff looking to have their firearm rights restored. His predicate crimes were undeniably violent in nature. And then we had a similar set of circumstances with Rahimi. So you've got plaintiffs that are, to say the least, as you put it, not real sympathetic people. And that adds a little air of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, this kind of weirdness to these cases.
Optics, I guess.
Yeah, the optics. Optics of it are kind of strange when you're looking at, because we've all had drilled into our head, you commit felonies, you lose your right to vote, you lose your civil rights, you lose your right to bear arms, etc. And then you have these cases where these people do very bad things in their past. I am all for, if your sentence is complete, you're done, you should have your rights restored. That's my deal. Now, is there going to be some nuance there depending on the level of felonies? Okay, that's what people are debating about and talking about on a regular basis, depending on what type of crime it was. White-collar crime, stealing $30,000, embezzling, versus shooting somebody's kneecaps off in a robbery because they didn't pay attention to you when you were going to take all their stuff and possibly kill them. Okay, so it's arguable. But how do you think this will shake out eventually? Any idea with our last few seconds?
Yeah, and look, to your point about a lot of these plaintiffs not being the best people or having the best record, at least, that's kind of true of pretty much everyone who's ever set a Supreme Court precedent about individual rights. That's sort of the whole purpose of the rights, right? It protects the unpopular things because you don't need to worry about the stuff that's popular.
Stephen Gutowski, The Reload. Thank you, brother, for being here and for everything that you do. And I'm looking forward to seeing you continue the sober reporting over at CNN. And hopefully somewhere else, too, as a paid contributor, because we love your voice out there on national television. TheReload.com. Stephen Gutowski, thanks. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart, next.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Yeah, welcome back. We thank Andy Hoosier for that KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker. We love you guys. KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker. Andy Hoosier, Talker's Heavy 100 host as well. And he's a good one, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear him sitting in this chair from time to time when I'm traveling, that kind of stuff. Not on a Sunday show, but he will on the daily show for us. We never miss a Sunday program. Haven't missed a Sunday program in 17 straight years. A remarkable run. But we appreciate Andy Hoosier and KQAM Wichita and all you fans up there. We love you guys. Welcome back to the Car Firearms Group studios with me here on the CZ mic at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. And, of course, it's all being brought to you by the Great National Rifle Association. Hey, guys, if you need any web work done, if you need any app work, any AI work, Centerfire Digital has you covered. Make sure to check them out, centerfiredigital.com. We'll talk about them again later in the broadcast with some more detail about some of the work that they do. But make sure to check out all of our great partners. You can find them all, including Centerfire Digital, over at armedamericanradio.com. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News, fan favorite for a reason. Welcome in, brother. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. Good to be with you.
Hey, it was fun watching Texas Tech. We really took it to them this weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, I like the inclusive language. That's right. We did it.
We did it. Maybe next week we'll play a varsity team. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I understand how college football works at the beginning of the season. But Texas Tech did it to it, man. We did a great job. Blatantly unconstitutional gun rights groups blast trans gun ban is your top story up on Breitbart News at AWR Hawkins right now. We were just talking about that with Stephen Gutowski. A-Dubs, what is going on with this here? I've got my theory. I think this is a troll, if I'm putting money on it, to get the Democrats to support gun rights. I could be wrong, but the administration and the DOJ has got to know that this will never fly. And every single pro-gun rights organization out there is calling this nonsense. What's your take on this?
I can't really tell. I mean, we had at Breitbart, we had a official in the administration confirm that this was really something that was discussed. But at the time, that doesn't take it away from the ability for it to be used as a troll, as you say. So I don't know. What I do think is this is a situation much like we've had a problem we have. See, if people say, well, if somebody's so dangerous that they'll go kill children, then they don't need a gun. No, you've gone too far down the road. You got to come back to the foundation. If somebody is in society and they're so dangerous they're going to kill people, they need to be either in an institution or prison. Now, we can't put them in prison because they haven't committed the crime yet. So they need to be in an institution. And when I say that word, I mean an asylum. They need to be locked up where they can't be among us. And if we do that, we don't need any type of gun control. Because what we've done then is we've done things in the right order. Mm-hmm. We've removed dangerous people from society, left behind only the law-abiding. And there are always a few criminals we didn't spot, but that's why the law-abiding will be armed, and there won't be gun control to hinder them in being armed. And that's how this situation needs to be handled. If we're going to decide, not just personal opinion, but if it's going to be a ruling policy that transgenderism is a mental health issue, if that's the case, then the folks who claim to be transgender need to be put somewhere where they can't hurt people. But we don't need a gun ban.
You know, as I'm listening to you talk about this, it kind of throws a third one in the mix here. And by that I mean, because this is an extreme. A blanket gun ban is extreme. National Association for Gun Rights, Dudley Brown, who you quoted in your piece, is quoted as saying, our advice to the ATF, DOJ, and FBI is to stop chasing headlines on the back of the Second Amendment and focus on preserving and protecting gun rights so that law-abiding Americans can defend their loved ones from violent nutcases, criminals, and gangbangers. And he's right. And it was interesting if you think a little bit farther. I don't want to go too far down the holes because you start putting on a tinfoil hat. But honest to God, in a case like this, the DOJ knows that this is extreme. And what it might do is reach a middle ground of doing exactly what you just said, putting these people who they are deemed to have mental health issues in an institution, which would be seen as a compromise from the blatant, outright unconstitutional blanket ban. So there's a lot going on here. We're just going to have to watch this and see this unfold, I guess, right?
Right. I agree. And I mean, there's a ton of pushback. You know, Trump needed the NRA to get elected. He needed Gun Owners of America to get elected. He needed National Association for Gun Rights. He needed Second Amendment Foundation. On and on we can go. And he's losing every one of them on this issue. So I don't think it's a smart push.
No, I don't either. So it tells me that there's something else in play, because nothing in Washington happens in a vacuum, particularly with this administration. There's always something up their sleeve. So we'll see how this plays out. Of course, we'll be here to report it, and AWR will be covering it. What happened in New York City? 35-year-old man was shot dead Sunday morning after slashing an officer's face. What happened here? You're writing about this today.
Yeah, he did. He slashed an officer's face, and then he was chased by other officers, and once cornered, he allegedly lunged at one of those officers, and so they gave him the Swiss cheese treatment, filled him full of holes, and that's that. So, you know, if his mom was fixing to cook breakfast tomorrow, she can save herself that hassle. She might just want to go to McDonald's, get an Egg McMuffin, and a cup of coffee. She's going to be all by herself. And that's just how that goes.
AWR at its finest, ladies and gentlemen, and I know Greg's probably got that drop. We'll probably be using that at some point. I do want to, and I don't think you wrote about this, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a horrible crime on a North Carolina train where a suspect came up behind a young woman and stabbed her in the neck, and was all caught on video, walking around dripping blood all over the place. And as Breitbart is pointing out, you know, they've covered this, and it's suspect behind North Carolina train stabbing, arrested and charged with murder, which we would expect nothing less. But this is a prime. You know, she was ambushed from behind, but no one else was armed to stop this individual, and it would have been nice to see that. And the reason I mention this is because you write about the Seventh Circuit case going on right now, where the Seventh Circuit panel upholds Illinois' public transit concealed carry ban, which overturned a lower court ruling. What?
It's absolutely crazy.
It is crazy.
I'm going to tell you for the record, I'm giving advice to nobody. I'm saying that. I am giving advice to nobody. But if I'm on public transit in Illinois and you pull a knife on me, I will shoot you dead. So that's how that's going to work. But this ruling is crazy.
A Seventh Circuit, I don't, you know, Seventh Circuit, you never know what's going to come from these courts. You have no idea. Well, some of them are plainly obvious, but as you point out here, on September 2nd, 2025, a 3-judge panel for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, ladies and gentlemen, overturned the lower court ruling and upheld a concealed carry ban on Illinois public transport. The lower court found that was not constitutional. The case is Schonthal versus Raoul, and it was brought by 4 plaintiffs last year. On Tuesday, the 3-judge panel of the Seventh Circuit upheld the ban, and here's what one of the judges wrote that AWR is reporting. The Second Amendment protects an individual's right to self-defense. It does not bar the people's representatives from enacting laws consistent with our nation's historical tradition of regulation. Here comes Bruin, being perverted, I might add, that ensure public transportation systems remain free from accessible firearms. We're asked whether the state may temporarily disarm its citizens as they travel in crowded and confined metal tubes, unlike anything the founders envisioned. We draw from the lessons of our nation's historical regulatory traditions and find no Second Amendment violation in such a regulation. Now, AWR, what they're doing is stretching the neck of the Bruin decision here in no fewer than 3 references to Bruin in this statement to somehow try to justify this decision, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible decision. Hopefully it will be appealed.
30.
I don't know which way they're going to go now, to the entire Seventh Circuit in banc, or if they're going to go straight to the Supreme Court, but this needs to be appealed. It
will likely go en banc first, but we could be wrong about that. We're getting ready to take our first break with AWR Hawkins. When we get back, we'll cover a lot more, as much as we can get in with AWR. He's got a lot of work out there. You can find everything that AWR Hawkins writes at Breitbart News. In fact, you can make it real easy and follow along with us by just searching AWR Hawkins Breitbart News, and bam, you'll see a list of everything he's written in order as we follow it down the path on the show. Every single week with AWR Hawkins from Breitbart News. We'll be back right after this break with AWR, and then we'll round up the hour with him and head into hour number 2. You're on the Armed American Radio Network. We'll be back right after this.
They gave him the Swiss cheese treatment, filled him full of holes, and
Guys, Greg and I are talking during the break about part of the conversation with AWR and the analogous decision by the Seventh Circuit referencing Bruin multiple times. And I'm not sure there was public transportation as we know it today back during the founding era. And as we'll talk to AWR about this. And Mike Barnes, you mentioned in there that I'm certain that down through history, everyone was armed while traveling. And that's what Greg and I were just talking about. And we'll tell you when we come back on air what we determined, and make for a pretty interesting conversation before we move forward with AWR in the final segment. So great comment, Mike. I'm going to read that when we come back on air. So
I asked Google, did stagecoaches have secure cabinets for storing firearms? And it said no. AI responds with no. Standard stagecoaches did not have secured cabinets for storing firearms, while some specialized armored coaches had safes. The typical method for storing firearms was keeping them close at hand for immediate defense.
Yeah, which is interesting because without doing the search, just going back into the brain, I don't know where the analogy is. So this is interesting. Yeah, Mike, great point. I always use the, I don't think Paul Revere took off his pistol as they were, so we can have some fun with that. In fact, it was a whole different country back then at night, guys. It was pitch black. Frightening outside the cities when you were moving out in rural areas.
We're back.
Are we back live? Here we go. There we go. This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back. Yeah, guys, welcome back. I do this every hour on the show, and I'm gonna continue to do this and beat this into the ground because this is such a no-brainer. I'm holding up, if you're watching on your devices, your television sets, whatever you are watching on, hopefully not while you're driving, I'm holding up my Attorneys on Retainer card. If you carry a gun, you already know evil is real. It exists. We talk about it every single day, 17 years on the airwaves, 6 days a week. It's real, and it will attack you whenever it chooses to. And if you have to use a firearm, you're likely going to be investigated, and there could be charges. Attorneys on Retainer is your attorney. A client privilege, immediately, right off the bat. And the card comes to you. You've got it in your hands. It's so simple to do. It is such a no-brainer. If you carry a firearm, you need this card in your wallet. attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Get $50 off the $100 sign-up fee over there. And like many, many, many of you have, start putting this card in your wallet, okay? Join and have an attorney who focuses specifically on one thing, and that's self-defense law in your back pocket. It's that simple. All you've got to do is the math. $35 an hour times 12 months is less than 1 hour of a great attorney. And your case is going to be, if there's a case, God forbid, that you have to go through this, it's going to be a lot more than one attorney's hourly fee. Believe me when I tell you that. Attorneysonretainer.us, no-brainer. Just get it done. AWR Hawkins, welcome back, brother. So during the break, we got from a chat here, Mike Barnes writes in, I'm certain that down through history, everyone was armed while traveling. And AWR, Greg and I were talking about this during the break, and he pulled up a search. I don't know what the equivalent of public transportation was back in the founding era. The only thing that I could think of would be some type of stage, right? And I can't imagine where the analogy comes from in this decision by the Seventh Circuit. And Greg, would you tell us what you found out on just a cursory Google search real quick?
Yeah, my basic search just asked if they had secure cabinets for storing firearms in stagecoaches, and the AI response was no. Standard stagecoaches did not have secure cabinets for storing firearms, while some specialized armored coaches had safes. A typical method for storing firearms was keeping them close at hand for immediate defense.
AWR?
That's pretty sweet. That's what you would assume. I mean, you're not. It's just crazy. This decision makes no sense. I hope it gets overturned.
And with Bruin, the analogy, I don't know where they got that, but they went out of their way to make reference to Bruin 3 times. Why? Because they know it's going to likely be appealed. to end bonks. So we'll follow it and we'll see what happens. No question about it. Now, this is always fun, AWR, because you and I have covered Chicago so many times together over the years. So far, the numbers right now that I have are 9 shot, 5 killed in Chicago, which is light for Chicago. However, they don't stop killing each other when the weekend is over, ladies and gentlemen. The numbers are going to continue to rise. They're atrocious in Chicago. We know Trump wants to do something about it. The Democrats don't want him to because they apparently support criminal activity and gangbangers, and they don't want to stop crime in Chicago. But AWR, one of the biggest arguments we've always heard from Illinois politicians is, well, it's always the Republican states. All these criminals get their guns from Indiana and from Wisconsin. Of course, ATF data, and I'm going to quote your headline, guns recovered in Illinois are largely from Illinois. So how do they square this one, man? Another slap in the face, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, for every state, I can't remember. I think they recovered 22,000 total in 2023, somewhere around there. And the biggest state from which they recovered was Illinois with, I believe, 9,700 guns. The next closest state was Indiana with 2,000 guns or so. It's a heck of a gap like that. And after that, there's not another state that even reached the number of 1,000. Like they might have recovered 342 states or guns from this one state, 280 from that state. But I mean, the dominating state was Illinois, and it just undercuts that narrative they've been using for years. Well, we have good gun laws, but nobody else has good gun laws, and that's why it happens. No, the reason it happens is because gun control doesn't work. Gun control doesn't control criminals. Gun control empowers criminals, and that's why they have a crime problem.
Kathy Hochul, are you listening? Same thing. Same excuse in any blue state. They blame it on the red states and don't want to take responsibility for their own horrifically failed policy. It's that simple. U.S. Virgin Islands, we don't generally talk about the Virgin Islands that much. In fact, I don't know if we ever have, maybe once or twice over the years. There's not really a lot going on, but you have a headline up right now. Ban on assault rifles, suppressors being weighed in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Large capacity magazines and suppressors is now before the U.S. Virgin Islands legislature in the form of Bill 36-0144. They just going to, you know who's running it if that's the case, AWR. Any luck in finding out what the future holds here for the Virgin Islands? U.S. Virgin Islands anyway?
I don't know right now what it holds. I know that they have that bill, but, U.S. Virgin Islands has an Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So they've already drank the Kool-Aid. They're already believers. And so it wouldn't shock me if this happens. I'll just put it that way. But you have Gun Owners of America and others who have made clear they're going to fight this tooth and nail, and that's what we need.
Yeah, as AWR reports, ladies and gentlemen, and it is interesting because I haven't spent much time on Virgin Islands and followed any of the laws down there. But information from the ATF indicates that the U.S. Virgin Islands already has, stringent gun controls, including a licensing requirement that impacts ammunition possession as well as guns. So if you're not in the business of selling guns, you cannot sell or possess ammunition unless you hold a valid firearms license for a gun that is either the same gauge or the same caliber of the ammunition that they want to possess. So they've already, as you said, they've already been drinking the Kool-Aid down there. So it looks, I'm going to guess that something like that will likely pass in the Virgin Islands. Now, because it's a U.S. territory, what kind of pushback can they get from Washington, from DOJ or anything like that? Or it's just going to have to go to court?
Yeah, I don't know that. You've exceeded my knowledge base on how that'll be handled.
Probably look to an organization because it is U.S. territory, look for an organization like the Second Amendment Foundation, NRA, and others to go after that. But it's interesting stuff. Tim Waltz has, again, this guy's he's a ringleader for stupid comments. America has more guns and the wrong types of guns. What's Clown Posse leader doing? What's he talking about here?
I mean, he wants an assault weapons ban, quote unquote. That's what he wants. And he's hoping he gets momentum for it. But these people with half a brain, these Democrats, they don't understand. The shooter in Minneapolis targeted the school because he wanted unarmed victims. Made that very clear. I covered it. He made it clear in his manifesto. So what's their response? Okay, let's make the gun-free areas bigger. That's basically what this is. When you start banning guns, you're making the gun-free area bigger. And it's absolutely, it's just, I call it Lunacide. It's just craziness. And anyway, hopefully he won't be able to do this because there are still enough Republicans in the legislature to jam this up. And so if you live in Minnesota, number one, I feel bad for you. Number two, call your representatives, your senators, and tell them to oppose this gun control outright.
Well, you better believe it. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Thank you, brother, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Armed American Radio every single week. Ladies and gentlemen, AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Real simple. Just search AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and the entire list of everything he writes in successive order will come up. And he has been a source of information for this program for many, many, many years, and you get to hear it here on the program every single week. We're proud to be able to do that. When we come back, we'll be back at 6 minutes after the hour. Dr. John Lott will be joining us. And we are also going to have a visit from Paul Markel, student of the gun, for a couple segments. He'll be up first and then followed by Dr. John Lott. So don't turn the dial. We'll be back right after this at 6 minutes after the hour on the Armed American Radio Network.
You just failed.
goes up.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining the program, welcome in. If you're rejoining us, welcome back to the program. Mark Walters here in the Car Firearms Group studios for you in front of a CZ Powerful Platinum microphone, all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association here from the Patriot Mobile Communication Command Center. And I'm holding up a Patriot Mobile activated phone. You can do the same thing, patriotmobile.com/AAR, and take advantage of a free month. Move your phones over one at a time, all of them, whatever you want to do, and do business with a company that supports your gun rights and puts their money where their mouth is as part of their corporate policy to support your Second Amendment. That's what we love about Patriot Mobile. They are the real deal. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing, brother? Welcome back from your vacay.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm doing pretty good.
Well, we're live on Facebook for everybody. Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. Please, if you're watching, like and share the post. We appreciate that very much. And Greg, I'll let you do the rest. Tell people where they can watch and participate in the chat. And we'll go to the student of the gun, Paul Markel, who is with us for the half hour.
Yeah, sure. While you clear your throat, you can head on over to YouTube or Rumble and search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, we're at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. To join our live chats, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Well, that'll do it. Thank you. We appreciate it, man. What fall weather is getting me here? I don't know. Oh, man.
So nice.
It is beautiful. I'll give it that. It is gorgeous. The weather has been beautiful. Paul Markel, student of the gun. You're out in beautiful Wyoming. Is it snowing yet?
No, not yet, but we're putting up firewood. I spent a good portion of the day splitting wood and stacking it.
Yeah. When do you get that first snowfall? It's not too long from now, is it? Sometime October?
Usually it snows on Halloween.
Okay.
We might get a freakish one that'll, drop in and drop some decorative snow maybe in the end of September, beginning of October, but it won't last.
Yeah, well, then you'll be in for a long winter, but that's okay. It is very beautiful out there. I need to get out there and hang out with you and play some guitar with you here in the near future. Paul, I intentionally didn't send you this piece today because I wanted to hit you with it spontaneous. I love the spontaneity that you bring to the show. And it's a piece from The Guardian, so you know what direction it's going. But it's actually a pretty good piece.
.co.uk.
Yes, it's The Guardian. Inside the gun absolutists' bold plot to repeal one of America's strongest firearm laws. Gun Owners of America. Yeah, this is interesting. Gun Owners of America, which sees the NRA as soft, has the National Firearms Act in its sights, and it's ready for battle. Before Donald Trump had even won last year's presidential election, GOA, one of the country's most aggressive Second Amendment champions, saw an opportunity to use the coming budget bill to overturn one of the country's core gun laws, their target, the National Firearms Act, which was, of course, as you know, passed in 1934 as an answer to gangster-era crime. The NFA was imposed the registration and a $200 tax on machine gun silencers and short-barreled rifles and shotguns. The tax back then, Paul, as you know, roughly, according to The Guardian, was around $5,000. So it was effective in dissuading a lot of people, and as The Guardian calls it, acting as a de facto ban for most would-be buyers. There's my hint right there that the thing is unconstitutional, right on its face. What say Paul Markel, student of the gun?
Well, let's, for those of you that went to public school in the last 25 years and didn't learn anything, let me explain how the NFA came about. See, the first thing we did is we had religious extremists and activist women push for prohibition. And they gave the federal government more power than it had ever had in its existence. It gave the federal government more extra constitutional power and authority than it had ever had. And as we should know, but like I said, a lot of you guys went to public schools and you didn't learn anything. The Prohibition was an abysmal failure. What Prohibition did was it created super gangs or super gangsters. You know, your Capones and so forth. Capone would have been just a footnote in history if it were not have been for Prohibition.
That's a fact.
He became a multimillionaire, and a lot of the gangsters became millionaires because of Prohibition. So the United States federal government created a problem. They created a problem with their overreach, with their Prohibition overreach, which the vast majority of Americans didn't want, but they were, I don't know, bullied or whatever, cowed by their activist wives and their Southern Baptist preachers or whatever. And if you're a Southern Baptist, sorry, but it's true. So they gave the government more power than it had ever had. And so what did they spend their money on? Well, if you're Al Capone or Machine Gun Kelly or, fill in the blank, you buy Thompson machine guns. Now, Thompsons were over the counter.
That's right.
In the 1920s, but they were expensive.
Imagine that today. Wouldn't that be beautiful? I have a Thompson, but boy, when I went through
insanely expensive.
Yes.
They were like $250. So, going back to the whole, like, for inflation, that'd be like spending $5,000 on a rifle today. Most people wouldn't do it. Well, so the government created the gangland problem with Prohibition. They empowered the gangsters. Gangsters became more powerful and networked from coast to coast. And then, so what did they do? Well, the government steps in and they're like, this is a terrible problem. These gangsters are using machine guns and we got to do something about it. And so they did what they did. They did a huge power grab. Of course, they did the power grab as Prohibition was being repealed. So they've got, I don't know how many Prohibition agents they had. They had thousands. And they gave the FBI had heretofore unheard of power in the United States. The FBI, with the Hoover FBI, became the monster that it is today during Prohibition. So they do that. They create a problem, and then they step in and they set themselves up as the solution for the problem that they created. And we get the National Firearms Act.
And in your interpretation, clearly, as in mine, completely unconstitutional on its face, correct?
Absolutely.
Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, almost a rhetorical question for Paul. We know the answer to that question, but you're listening to someone who believes, as a law-abiding individual, I should be able to buy whatever gun I want out of a vending machine. It's pretty much that simple, and as a law-abiding person. Now, what I see happening here, and the Guardian does reference this, because as you know, the tax stamp has been repealed. So going into the courts now, you have the GOA, you have the NRA and others that are now fighting this in court. You have 15 states that are now fighting to get rid of and repeal the NFA altogether, because without the tax stamp, the regulatory burden should be non-existent. And obviously, Mark Oliva over at National Shooting Sports Foundation saying the same thing, National Rifle Association saying the same thing. All the organizations are together on this. The hoops are also getting easier to jump through, according to The Guardian. 9 decades of inflation had eroded the recently revised 200 tax on NFA items enough for most customers, meaning you and I, ladies and gentlemen, to view it as more of an annoyance than an insurmountable financial hurdle. So when you hear this, clearly, let's just make it so expensive. Isn't that what the modern Democrats are trying to do with some of their gun control laws right now today? Exactly what was done with the NFA?
Well, absolutely. And let's not forget the arbitrary short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun verbiage that they just pulled out of their rectums. They just extracted that from their rectums. And they're like, so a shotgun with 17 inches is a deadly, it's like depleted uranium, right? But one with 18, it's okay. You tell me that 1 inch, or in the case of Randy Weaver, 1/2 inch Never forget, Randy Weaver's wife and son were murdered by the federal government over a 1/2 inch discrepancy in a shotgun barrel.
Mm-hmm.
1/2 of 1 inch was all they needed to go to Randy Weaver's house, to his home, and kill his son and his wife. And yeah, I don't know if you want to deedle me or not, but the federal government executed and murdered his family.
All right, let me stop you there, Paul, because
there's
we're
no
getting
two
ready
ways
to
around that.
That's right. And this is a good segue for me here, because I do want to remind you, listeners, that the Gun Rights Policy Conference is coming up. I'll tie this together for you in a second. The Gun Rights Policy Conference, lovingly known as the GRPC, will be celebrating its 40th year in Salt Lake City, September 26th, 27th, and 28th. It is free to attend. And I will be interviewing in a fireside chat format on the stage as the MC of that event on Saturday's main day, Sarah Weaver, who at the time was the young baby that mom was holding. You don't want to miss this if you can get there. It's real simple. SAF.org/GRPC. Sign up. It's free to attend. We'll be back with Paul Markel. One more segment. Don't go away. The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show indeed. National Rifle Association presenting this broadcast every single day. You hear it presented by the National Rifle Association. Even The Guardian references the NRA as by far the biggest and most powerful gun lobby in the country. It remains so, ladies and gentlemen, and it is continuing to pick up steam every single day, and we need you to join to do that and to keep that up. The NRA working with us and other organizations in ways that just has not happened over the last few years. It is so refreshing, and you should be a part of it. We need you to be a part of it. A one-year membership. So I'm asking, $35, and I'm going to send you a free range bag, which cover that cost for you. So you get a free range bag out of the deal for a one-year membership. It's $35 for an annual membership. You're going to get a cool hat and all kinds of fun stuff. That's a discounted rate. But if you go 3 years, you're going to pay a little bit more, $85. We're going to send you the range bag as well. And a 5-year membership or life membership, we're going to send you the pair of binoculars. And when that's all done and all those giveaways, those goodies are gone, one of you is going to win a second range bag, a different product loaded with swag from all of our great partners at Armed American Radio. So make sure to join us, won't you please? NRA.org/AAR, NRA.org/AAR. We need your help. Welcome back to the Car Firearms Group Studios, brought to you by the NRA here on the CZ microphone at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. Paul Markel, student of the gun, welcome back. So back to this Guardian piece. I find this really interesting for a number of different reasons here. It's a fascinating topic. It really, truly is. And honestly, we're fair here. The Guardian did an okay job here, but they do, they quote from our side. They quote from the left as well. But what I find interesting is I think we're going to win this at the NFA. I really, truly do. I think you're going to see it go bye-bye. There's no effort at this point on our side to deal with machine guns yet. And there's a reason for that. They're going to take it in small increment steps. Get rid of the NFA. Give us back the option to buy, as you said, that 1.5 inch is ridiculous in that barrel length. And suppressors. Now, what you're going to see, because there's a lot of financial pressure right now on the firearms industry, as you know, Paul, for a lot of different reasons. And one of the anti-gunners in here says that that's because the gun manufacturers are fighting for a declining market. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe you see financial pressure from the Biden area, incredible increase in inflation over the years. And I was talking to some manufacturers' executives who told me that 2 years out, it was going to be a tough 2 years for the firearms industry as a result. People are not spending money on guns. They're having to pay more for gas and groceries and insurance and everything else, which puts a burden on not just guns, but other discretionary purchases as well. So we're seeing that this is going to be a huge boon to the firearms industry come January 2026. When that tax is gone, you're going to see suppressors fly off the shelves, and hopefully the SBR as well when this problem is fixed, Paul.
Well, we're kind of, they're fighting a losing battle when it comes to the, I guess, their favorite thing is in common use. Right. They're like, we can ban anything we want as long as it's not in common use. Until they discover that the Gene Stoner designed AR-15 is the number one most prevalent centerfire rifle in the United States. And then they stop talking about the in common use. They're like, did we say in common use? We said weapons of war. And then you say to them, like, well, okay, so you don't think weapons of war should be on our streets? They're like, absolutely not. So why do you give them to police officers? Mm-hmm. Why do police officers? They're like, the only thing AR is good for is murdering people.
Full auto. Okay, I might add to that as well.
Yeah, then why are you giving them to police officers? Are you planning on the police officers murdering people? Or no, they need them. Why do they need them? Well, because of gangs and violence. Like, oh, so they need them to save themselves from gangs and violence, but the people don't.
Okay
not
for me,
peasants.
Not for thee. Okay for me, not
the
for thee.
The peasant's job is to just shut up and die quietly and, let us take all your money before you die. And then afterwards, that's the job of the peasant, is to shut up and die quietly. But I was talking with our mutual friend, Bill Frady, today. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that occurred to me, and we were talking about, is how the genius of the Second Amendment is the use of the term arms.
Oh,
They could have said muskets. All right.
Paul's reading my mind. We're going to go here to arms in just a second.
They could have said rifles.
Yeah.
Right? They could have said rifles. They could have said muskets. They could have said whatever. They could have very specifically said the right to keep and bear a musket shall not be infringed. But the founders were smarter than that, because the Second Amendment is not about guns. Yes, it is. No, it's not. You're wrong. The Second Amendment is about individual liberty and the ability of the individual and the citizen and the organized militia, which is made up of citizens, to preserve individual liberty.
Now you mentioned,
see, that's why.
Now you mentioned arms. Let me stop you here because I want to go here.
Yeah.
You're reading my mind. But Billy Clark, who is a senior attorney at Giffords Law Center, the Guardian refers to them as a major gun safety group. Okay, all right. We all know that's
whatever.
a joke. Whatever. It's this thing we've seen creeping into the rhetoric. We think it just shows how out of touch they've become with the average gun owner. Here's what he's talking about. This growing extremism amongst the new generation of gun rights groups, this absolute no compromise, strike down every single gun law that has ever existed. It's starting to permeate more. So Billy Clark is figuring out they're on the losing end of this. But here's what he has to say. He says, getting rid of and overturning the NFA will be difficult. And I quote, most courts that have addressed the question have found that NFA items are not even arms because they're not used for self-defense. Oh, Paul, have at it.
Whoa. Whoa, really?
Yeah, go for it.
Really?
I teed you up for that one, man. Yeah.
Oh, man. And it's, well, and see, yeah, then we get to play this game with these activist judges that are appointed by Democrats that believe that it's their duty to interpret and to push forth their political agenda. And we need to get rid of them one at a time, too. But the idea that that the majority of Americans don't even care, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'll give you a great example of how Americans want short-barreled rifles and shotguns. They want them. You know how I know they want them? Because even though they're not an NFA item or they're not even a serialized item, but the Congressional Research Service estimates that between 10 and 40 million pistol braces were sold to American civilians by 2021. So they don't even have stats for the last 4 years. All right, 10 million is a lot. 40 million is a tremendous amount.
Yeah, it's huge.
And you say, well, the average American gun owner doesn't even care about that. Oh, yes, they do. Mm-hmm. And the average American gun owner is sick. They're up to their eyebrows with this reasonable gun control crap.
Well, I'm going to stop you there. I have to stop you there.
Card.
Perfect place to stop, Paul. I hate to do it, but we're up against a hard break.
Right.
So I want to give you enough time to tell people where they can get on your promo code right now. Tear it up. Paul's he's taking my thunder. Go ahead,
All right.
Paul.
Fired up.
Go to Student of the Gun University. That's SOTGU. And sign up for one of our home study. We have a lot of them. We have several home study classes. Use the promo code AAR. Save 15% on your tuition. Go do it today.
That'll work. Thank you, Paul Markel, student of the gun, ladies and gentlemen. SOTGU.com. 15% off the tuition on the online courses using the AAR promo code. You know that code. You can use it everywhere on the show. When we come back, Dr. John Lott off of his Fox News appearance yesterday. Don't go away.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Oh, welcome back, guys. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues here in the Car Firearms Group studios with you. We're halfway down already, Greg, in Dallas, Texas. I told you guys it's going to fly right by. It always does. Buckle in. And you heard that rejoin from Mike Gallagher. We appreciate that. Mike Gallagher, you can listen to him every morning on the West Coast, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and on the East Coast, 9 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. One of the top talkers in the country and a good friend of ours in this program and a good friend of yours, and he supports the Second Amendment. He's great. Make sure to give him a listen. Just look him up over at Salem Radio Network, SRN Online, for a station near you. We appreciate Mike and everything that he does in support of our gun rights and all of our great partners as well, all of whom you can find at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. More about them when we come back. Let's go now to the phones. Dr. John Lott, crimeresearch.org. Dr. Lott, welcome in. Always a pleasure to have you here. So you did a nice hit. I've got the clip. I'm not going to play it because I want you to tell us about it in person live. But you were on Fox yesterday talking about how to handle juvenile crime in D.C., and it was a great interview, great hit. John, these are no-brainer things. When I heard you on Fox and watched you on Fox, it was like you were sitting here on the mic with us. We talk about these issues every single day, but we're seeing some drastic reductions in D.C. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, no, it's been nothing short of miraculous, some of the changes. You had, I think, over a 21-day period, there was a total of 2 murders that had occurred. You went 13 days without a single murder in a row. The odds of that happening are like 1 in 800. The drop in carjackings is during 21 days is down something like 87%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Compared to the same period last year. And, you see huge drops in robbery and violent crime across the board occurring. So, it's amazing to me how so many politicians like Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, and many others are accusing Trump of racist policies here when, in fact, the victims overwhelmingly of these crimes are blacks. We only have data up through 2021 for the racial composition of those who are murdered in D.C., but about 96% of those over that time period who were murdered were blacks. And, of course, they're harmed in these other types of crimes, too. So, you want to try to do something about this. And the question is, what do you do? One of the big problems that they've had has been with regard to juvenile crime. Mm-hmm. A large percentage of the violent crime in D.C. involves juveniles. And the big problem is, so crimes by adult, D.C. is very unique. Crimes by adults are handled by the U.S. Attorney, which is Jean Pirro. And I'm sure many of your listeners have seen her on Fox News over the years. And but the D.C. Attorney General himself handles cases involving juveniles. Now, somebody who's 17, if they commit a murder or something like that, it can be handled by the U.S. Attorney and the person can be prosecuted as an adult. But if you're 16 and you commit a murder, it's going to be handled by D.C. and they're going to take the person to family court, which is what they've been consistently doing. They basically treat crimes by these juveniles as family court. Basically, all of them are family court issues, and they're not punished really for committing these crimes. You just had a case a little while ago where you had this guy nicknamed Big Balls, who was working with Doge, who was, this young computer expert who was helping ferret out waste and fraud in the federal government. anyway, he was out in DuPont Circle late one night. DuPont Circle is a relatively nice area in D.C. for those who haven't been there. It's not very far from the White House and other places like that. And, it's near the Brookings Institution and lots of other places like that. It's right near Embassy Row. He and this woman that he was with were attacked. He tried to protect her, put her in the car, and there were 10 juveniles who attacked him. If you've seen any of the pictures, he was
a mess.
Pretty badly beaten up, had a concussion, had other injuries that were there. And they caught 2 of these 10 individuals. And the family court judge released them from confinement. And so, unfortunately, that's too often. And look, as I was telling people on Fox, this isn't rocket science. If you want to reduce crime, you have to make it riskier for criminals to commit crime. That means higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences. So even if you arrest people, as they've been doing much more now that Trump has put federalized law enforcement in D.C. and put in federal law enforcement agents from the FBI and other agencies to go and arrest people. If you don't punish them, you're not really making it very risky just because you arrest them and put them into family court and then release them on their own recognizance and just tell them not to go and do crimes again. And unfortunately, they have had a lot of crime by juveniles there. Now, the Trump administration wants to have the laws changed so that people who commit horrific, violent crimes, even if they're 15 or 16, will be tried as adults. When Mayor Bowser, the mayor for D.C., was asked about that, she basically refused to answer whether she would support that, which is not a good sign. And, so if Trump has shown anything in the last month or so, and that is, if you make it risky and costly for criminals to commit crime, you're going to see a lot less crime. More needs to be done. But, whether the Democrats are going to fight him on this.
Oh, they will. They will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to. They've already signaled they're going to. And just to give the numbers that John mentioned before, I just want to make sure that these numbers are out there so you don't forget them, folks. Carjacking's down 85%. Robbery's down 42%, and violent crime down 24% overall. John, this is in what time period now? A month?
Yeah, well, the numbers you gave were for the first 2 weeks.
First 2 weeks.
They've had additional data for the first 21 days of it. Trump only has the authority to go and do this for 30 days. It's coming up very soon. It's basically the 10th of September. That he has the authority unless Congress will pass legislation that would allow him to extend it. But I guess what's happened is that Mayor Bowser has basically agreed to, even without Congress passing the legislation, because Schumer promised to filibuster it, she's going to essentially let Trump do it through, I guess, the end of November. So at least they'll be able to continue doing this for a while.
Well, which is a slap, too, because as you just mentioned, we're getting ready to take a break, ladies and John. We'll carry this through the conversation on the flip side with Dr. Lott, who, by the way, you can visit at crimeresearch.org, and you can support John any way you possibly can. $5, $50, $500, whatever you can for this information to get out there, because John is speaking the truth. Now, interesting that Schumer did threaten to filibuster. Bowser has, I guess she's along for the ride. She has seen the numbers drop, and I do have to hand it to her in that respect for allowing that to happen. Surely a slap in the face to the Democrats in the Senate and the House, no question about it. And it also fires a shot against across the bow of mayors like Johnson and others in big cities across the country. Remember, there are no blue states, ladies and gentlemen, only big blue cities. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. One more segment to go to round out this hour with Dr. John Lott. Don't go away.
If you own a firearm, you know that a self-defense incident can happen anytime. That's why you need Attorneys on Retainer. They're the only self-defense program backed by real attorneys who specialize in self-defense cases. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
No-brainer, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute stupid no-brainer. attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Join. $50 off the $100 sign-up fee. You know bad people exist. You carry a firearm to defend against bad people because you know evil is real like we do here in the studio. Attorneys on Retainer, if you're ever investigated, or worse, you have an attorney who focuses on one thing only, getting your tail off. Self-defense cases only. Attorney on Retainer, attorneysonretainer.us. Of course, part of the Attorneys for Freedom law firm. Make sure to have this card that I'm holding up on camera, or did hold up on camera. I'm going to hold it up again there, so there you go. That I'm holding up for you in your pocket like I do. You will sleep better at night. You can find them at our website. Just click the link. Use the AAR promo code. It will take you right there, and within 2 hours or so, you will have Attorneys on Retainer in your hip pocket. And you can find all of our great partners over at armedamericanradio.com, including Centerfire Digital. If you need any web work done, Centerfire Digital wants your business, doesn't like to do business with the left, wants to deal with you. So if you run a business and need some help over there, make sure to check out Centerfire Digital and all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, including Goat Guns. Goat Guns are back, and we've got some really fun new stuff for you. We'll be talking about that on the Daily Defense, along with the rest of our great partners. And I do want to point out that during the break, I did get a notification from Paul Markel, who will be attending the Gun Rights Policy Conference. So if you want to meet the student of the gun, show up in Salt Lake City, September 26th, 27th, and 28th. Hang out with me, Alan Gottlieb, Paul Markel, and many, many, many others. Everybody that you see, read, and hear will be there. And I'll be doing a fireside chat with Sarah Weaver, and I'll also be giving a fireside chat conversation up on stage as the MC for the event with Montana Attorney General Knudsen, and you're gonna want to be there for this. Trust me, this is going to be a super event. It's the 40th anniversary of the GRPC. SAF.org/GRPC. Dr. Lott, welcome back in. CrimeResearch.org, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about crime, and you know, I close out that last segment, John, with those comments. It's a shot across the bow from Bowser, I think, and I don't know that she didn't mean it that way, but it clearly is a shot across the bow of these other big city Democrat mayors who, for whatever reason, are continuing to fight this when they know it's working, which is baffling to begin with. But again, to me, John, it just shows that they put agenda above the safety and security of their people, because the Democrats own the problems in these cities, particularly cities like Chicago, et cetera, where they've controlled the city for 100 years. They own every single pull of the trigger and every single crime committed. They will not do anything about it. And the murders continue. 9 people shot, 5 killed, 14 total, 5 killed, 9 wounded in Chicago alone. And those numbers will update in about an hour, John. So are the other mayors going to figure this out, do you think? Is Trump going to get some legs here, or are they just going to fight him every step of the way? They're on the wrong side of this. It's not going to bode well for him in the midterms, is my guess.
Right. Well, I mean, I hope the constituents in their cities hold them responsible for these deaths and things, because they could fix them. And I don't understand why if the federal government's offering to go and provide law enforcement help, they oppose it. I mean, you just saw these huge demonstrations in Chicago. I think it was yesterday, with people opposing Trump trying to provide federal resources to try to reduce crime in Chicago. You have all these leftists there, but they're not the only voters there. There are a lot of people who are victims of violent crime, not just directly, but indirectly. I mean, one of the big problems that you have is that businesses close down because of the crime. Other businesses, if they do operate, have much higher costs. I mean, anybody who's been to D.C., for example, and goes into a CVS or Walgreens sees everything is behind plexiglass. If you want to go and buy something, you have to wait for a clerk to come over, open up the plexiglass, and then stand next to you while you go and read the packages to try to decide what it is you want to buy. I felt pretty embarrassed.
It's crazy
when I've had to do that for just wasting their time, and that obviously that's costly. But as places close down, Who do you think works in a place like D.C.? It's overwhelmingly minorities, which is the population of the area. Who shops overwhelmingly in those stores? It's overwhelmingly minorities. Who owns houses in those areas whose property values are depressed? It's overwhelmingly minorities. So it's, you see the direct things, and as I mentioned before, 96% of the people murdered in D.C. up at least till 2021, which is the latest data we have, were blacks. And they're victims in terms of robberies, they're victims in terms of rapes, they're victims in terms of aggravated assaults. Democrats claim that they care about the poor, that they care about blacks, and yet they're unwilling to do the types of things that you just mentioned there, that go and save lives and protect people in many different ways.
Yeah, and you're right. The people the people that live and work in these cities want this fixed. And Bowser, when she saw it firsthand, realized, I believe, hey, I can't argue with this. I simply can't. These numbers are real. We're seeing results. I can't argue with this. And I I'm frustrated as to why the others, the people will hold them accountable. And I think you're going to see that in the cities. We could be turning this ship around, John. Go ahead.
Well, I hope so, but it's still not clear. I mean, one of the problems that the U.S. Attorney in D.C. has faced is that you have to have a grand jury go and indict people. And unfortunately, the grand juries there are, refusing to hand down indictments because it's their way of kind of nullifying Trump's approach there. So, you just have a lot of Democrats who just hate Trump so much that they, won't even go and, allow the district attorney there or the U.S. attorney there to go and prosecute those people as felons. Now, the U.S. attorney can go and bring misdemeanor charges against these individuals, but, without having the grand jury indict them. But, you'd like to really make it clear to people with felony punishment that, they did something really wrong when they've harmed other people.
Yeah, and the Democrats are on the wrong side of this. Bowser knew that. There's no question about it. And you are seeing a lot of pushback from people that are begging for federal assistance in these cities. And again, you just hit the nail on the head, as you always do. But nullifying Trump's approach to this is what this is all about. John, please tell people where they can find you and support you and help you, please, at Crime Research.
Well, they go to crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
That will work, ladies and gentlemen. Please support Dr. Lott in his efforts over there. The research is right there. The facts are there, and John does incredible work putting this information out there, and we need all the help we can get to continue to put the information out. John, congratulations on your fantastic hit over at Fox News yesterday. Thanks for everything that you do and for all of this amazing information that you put out at crimeresearch.org. That's Dr. John Lott, ladies and gentlemen. We love him for good reason. You just heard it. He's the real deal. He is a national treasure. Please support him. And you can find Crime Research at my website. All of our great partners. We've got the best group of partners we've ever had at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. When we come back on the flip side of the hour, 6 minutes after the hour, I should say to be exact, at 6 minutes after, we're going to have the crew. Brad Premo, combat vet, ex-law enforcement officer. Of course, Brad, the CEO of Lead Slingers Whiskey. Ryan Petty, Parkland father, and of course the CEO, fan favorite himself, Justin Moon from Car Arms. We'll be back at 6 after. Don't go away. live.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Hour 3 begins right now. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast just cruising right along at a high speed. I told you at the beginning of the program at the first hour, buckle down, we were going to fly right by. It always does on a Sunday. We love you for being here. Thanks very much for tuning in. Mark Walters here, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And on Sunday broadcast, The Monster Show, being heard on hundreds and hundreds of radio stations across the nation. We are live in the Car Firearms Group studios for you. It is about 6 or 7 minutes after the hour as we kick off the third hour for you live across the country in front of the CZ powerful and platinum microphone here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center. And of course, all being brought to you by the great National Rifle Association. More about the National Rifle Association and all of our other great partners coming up in the program. Greg, we're live on Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. If you want to watch there, guys, just don't do it while you're driving, please. And also on all the other social media platforms. We'll let Greg tell you about that right now, and then we'll get started with the crew.
Yeah, sure. You can also watch the show over on YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. If you want to head over to X, just look for us at AAR Mark. You can also head on over to armedamericanradio.org or .com. Hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option to join our live chat. Just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, it's always fun over there on Telegram. It really is. We've been getting a lot of great comments over there over the last few weeks. We always do. And I can't keep up with all of them. I think I'm about 1,300 comments down now, Greg. I do the best I can, but it's kind of hard to monitor them all while we're live on the show. But, guys, we do see every single one of them. And from time to time when we've got a great one in there, and we do every day, I just can't get to all of them, but we'll read you and give you a shout-out. So if you want to jump in on Telegram on the chat, go ahead and speak your piece over there. And a lot of times you'll see some of our guests on the program, including Ryan Petty, who will be coming up in a moment, over there chatting as well. So welcome in. Let's get started with this third hour of Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. Let's start with Brad Premo, ex-law enforcement officer, combat vet, and founder and CEO of Lead Slingers Whiskey. Brad Premo, how you doing, my brother? It's good to have you here. Welcome back. We missed you last week.
Man, I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing wunderbar, brother. Let's go over to Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. This is the Car Firearms Group studios. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Well, always a pleasure. We're going to have a lively conversation today. I can promise you that. It always is. And Parkland father, Ryan Petty, dear friend of the program, mine personally, which means he's also your dear friend, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan, welcome to the program. Are you sounding like you're in the studio with me again today?
I am, Mark. I'm coming to you from the 100% peanut butter free Black Rock Ranch.
Yeah, that's the last time you were on in the round table. You had that big gob of peanut butter. So you did some shooting out on your home range over the weekend, did you not? Have some friends or family around?
We did. I've got a neighbor that had relatives in town. He said, hey, can I come over and shoot at the range? Of course. So he brought him over, and we got it in just before the skies opened up, and we just about got flooded out, but was perfect day at the range.
Typical for Central Florida. I'm curious, were any of those new shooters by any chance?
You know, they are. So my neighbor is a naturalized citizen of Mexico. His family, his relatives were here. As you may know, Mark, unless you're a cartel member, you're not allowed to have a firearm in Mexico.
Right.
And so this was a new experience for in-laws that were here, and they loved every minute of it.
Did anybody say to you when you were done educating them, oh my gosh, that sucked, I never want to do that again?
You know, I'm trying to think how many times that's ever happened to me. Never.
Right. That's the whole
I think
point.
it was never.
Brad Premo, have you ever had anybody that you've taken to the range say to you, "Oh God, that was terrible. That sucked. I never want to do that again"?
No, I mean, I've taken some people to range that were either ranging from no experience to firearms to terrified of firearms to had one stuck in their face during a robbery, terrified of firearms. And each and every time they came away feeling not only like they had a good time, but also, feeling empowered.
That's it. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, they felt empowered, had their agency back. They now had the ability to be free and sovereign by themselves.
Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. I've lost count of how many people I've met at your festivals over the years. Have you ever had anybody shoot one of your BMG 50s out there and had them say, "Oh, I don't ever want to do that again. That wasn't any fun"?
Well, we try not to start people out on the 50 BMGs, but if you treat guns with respect and let beginners shoot beginner guns, they're all happy, all big smiles. And really, giving somebody a gun and teaching them how to use it is giving power to the people.
It is. It's that word empowerment again, Brad. You nailed it. And Ryan, you just experienced it this weekend. That's why I wanted to bring that up. You and I were talking over the weekend, and I couldn't wait to hit you with that live on the air because I know that myself from personal experience over many, many, many years. I've had family members who were terrified of firearms that are now firearms owners and just couldn't wait to go back to the range. It's a wonderful experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, the takeaway from that is take someone to the range. That's how you teach people. And none of them will say, very few will say, "I don't ever want to do that again." In fact, they say, "When can we come back? That was a blast." So try that. So I'm going to start around the table, Brad, with you. We're going to talk about trans bans, okay? So let's go here and have this conversation. Guys, you're probably aware that the administration or somebody coming out of D.C., not really sure to pinpoint where this is coming from specifically. So I hesitate to say, we'll just say it's coming out of Washington. The floating this, banning trans people from exercising their Second Amendment rights. And I'll just let all of you know, I am absolutely on record of saying absolutely not do we ban an entire class of people from having firearms because of the actions of a few nut jobs. Now, there are some things we can talk about there, and I have some theories about it, and I can't wait to get y'all's take on this. But, Brad, I think there's more going on with this being floated than meets the eye. And you know how Trump plays pool. He's got the Democrats defending crime. He's got them defending illegals. He's got them defending drug dealers coming from Venezuela. I mean, he's got the Democrats on their heels. They don't know which way to turn anymore. Could it be possible that someone in the administration is smart enough to figure out, you know what? They hate us so much, no matter what we do, they're going to do the opposite. So if we tell them we're going to ban a huge constituency group of theirs from owning firearms, they're going to come out and, because they hate us, start defending Second Amendment rights. Let's put them on the spot there. Could that be part of the motive, Brad?
I mean, I sure hope it is. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, really from day one of the first Trump administration, at different times, this man has run circles around them. Because, here's the thing. I mean, well, this is what you have when you have an entire a group of people that are motivated purely by hate. They are so blinded by their hatred for Donald Trump because he took Hillary's turn, and they've been so brainwashed by these leftist, George Soros funded people that they don't even know which way is up. They just know that if Trump says it, it must be bad, so they have to be against it.
Right.
And it's like a cat. It's like a cat playing with its food at this point. Now when it comes to banning trans people from having firearms, like I get it. I get the sentiment behind it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there are times where I think, I'm kind of at my limit of advocating for the gun rights of people who want to destroy me or who want to destroy my way of life. I get that. But at the same time, you have to sit there and be logical and understand what that means.
Right.
And, we talk, in our world, we talk about the slippery slope. We talk about incrementalism, and it goes both ways. And so if you advocate for a certain group to lose their firearms or their Second Amendment privilege or right simply because of who they are, that opens the door to everybody getting treated that way. This is something the Democrats have struggled with because they go big in identity politics and then they lose control of the fact that now you can't control which identities have have representation, right? And so that's why they hate us so much, because now the right, now we have representation in our identities. And so, we can't allow it to happen, even though I understand the sentiment behind it. It is a knee-jerk reaction. It's not the right move. And we need to keep on our message, which is we need to get mental health back in the conversation and back in the forefront of how we attack this problem of people getting their hands on weapons and going on rampages.
Yeah, you hit it there with the slippery slope deal, which is why this is such a terrible idea, which I feel certain, Justin. Justin, we're getting ready to take a break. Greg, how much time do I have?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Justin, hang tight with me. When we come back, I'm going to flip it over to you. Can't wait to get your take on this. Let me just point out, Centerfire Digital is in the chat right now and says, I'm fairly certain this trans ban, in quotes, was intentional to get them to defend guns. So when we come back, we're going to talk with Justin Moon about that very topic, and then we're going to go to Ryan Petty, talk to Ryan about that, and then we're going to go wherever the table takes us. You're on an Armed American Radio's classic roundtable. We've been doing this together for years. You're talking with Brad Premo, CEO of Car Arms, Justin Moon, and Parkland father Ryan Petty. I am Mark Walters. You're on the Armed American Radio Network. We'll be right back.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. I had hoped to hold the range bag up for you, but I wasn't thinking ahead enough, and it's too far down there to my left to get it for you. But if you join the National Rifle Association at nra.org/AAR or rejoin, we ask you to do that, please. Join us or rejoin us at the National Rifle Association, the nation's 800-pound gorilla in the room fighting on behalf of your rights. And this is a whole new outfit, ladies and gentlemen. So impressed with what they're doing over there. We'll have some NRA representation on the program next week coming up for you, no doubt, from very high levels. And we're looking forward to that. But you can join us over there at nra.org. If you join for 1 or 3 years or rejoin for 1 or 3 years, I'm going to send you a range bag. So there's your price right there. We're going to give it to you for free. It's not a contest. You join. Use that promo code AAR, nra.org/AAR. We're going to send you the range bag for free. And if you go 5 years or life, we're going to send you a super high-quality pair of binoculars, 10x42s, with the lens covers and the case. All right? So join us, won't you please? And many, many, many of you have. And when the giveaways are all gone, and they will be at some point, we've got a lot of them, but when they're gone, one of you is going, this is where the contest comes in, one of you at random is going to win a range bag, a separate range bag filled with all kinds of swag from our great partners, all of them. So we're looking forward to giving that away. So join us, please. National Rifle Association, nra.org/AAR. We need you to help us get back to 6 million members. It's how we fight these people every single day, and they are doing tremendous work alongside all of the other great gun rights organizations across the country. You can find that logo there and click on that. It'll take you right where you need to go. You can see the binoculars and the range bag. There's a photo up there on the page for you. And take advantage of that while we're offering that for you, okay? And we'll do something else. When those are gone, we'll do something fun for you as well. We'll keep that going because you guys love that stuff. NRA.org/AAR. All of our great partners, including Heaven's Harvest, Emerson Knives, Goat Guns, Centerfire Digital, they're all there at armedamericanradio.com. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. We're in the Car Firearms Group studios. Let's go back to you on this trans issue here. You know, you heard what Brad was saying about this, and I got to take it to you. Me thinks there's more involved here, Justin, than meets the eye. And I have another theory, too. But let me first hear what you have to say, and then I'll throw it to Ryan with another theory on top of that. We'll keep that conversation going. Justin, take it away.
Well, Mark, you know, the trans community represents about 0.1% of the population, but out of the last 10 mass shooters, some of them were trans. So there's a very strong correlation between this community and psychotic behavior. So I think, you know, if you're a man with a ding-dong and you think you're a woman, I think there might be an issue of mental illness.
Now, where you're going with this, let me where you're going with this is I think is where I'm getting ready to go. And I think where there's more that meets the eye here, I can't wait to have the rest of this conversation. I knew this was going to be good. Thank you, Justin. It kills me over here. Give me a second, guys, all right? Oh, good heavens. I'm on camera, too, Justin. Thanks for that, man. I do appreciate that. All right, so, guys, I'm not making light of it because Justin brings up a great point. And I think where that middle road is, guys, and I was talking with AAR Hawkins about this in the first hour. I'm sorry, I'm still chuckling on that. In the first hour that, you know, there's a third avenue here, guys, and that is it's such an extreme to ban a class of people from owning a firearm, okay? You can't do that. And the administration knows that. They know it would be an uphill climb. But I think what that does, Justin, is, based on what you just said, it moves that pendulum more to the middle where it begins to bring that conversation back into the mental health aspect of things in a framework that we haven't had the discussion before. Could that be where this might be going?
I think we certainly need to look at it because this segment of the population, there's going to be degrees of people who are kind of mentally ill but not dangerous or violent to people who are psychotic. And I think we have a very high population of psychotic people in that trans community. And I don't think, you know, under the current law, we can ban psychotic people from having guns. I don't think that's a big ask.
Yeah. Ryan, let me go to you because, again, now we're looking at, you know, take this away. We're looking at a couple different possibilities here. But I you know, nothing in Washington, Ryan, happens in a vacuum. So this was like a trial balloon. Throw it out there and see what you've got. Every major pro-gun rights organization in the country, NRA, SAF, GOA, everybody decrying this is impossible, unconstitutional, you can't do it. But at the same time, you've got that whole aspect of the Democrats are now going to have to defend gun rights of a large part of their constituency, or whatever percentage it is. Okay, but it's definitely a Democrat constituency. They're going to have to defend their gun rights, or are they? Or are they just going to remain silent? This is another avenue where Trump's just got them on their heels. They don't know what to do. And could this be pushing this more to the center, where there's a quote-unquote compromise, where we now begin looking at this from a mental health aspect, this particular topic as a mental health aspect, to address what Justin was saying?
Look, Mark, I think it's fun to watch Trump play. I know the analogy's this has been said before, he's playing 4D chess. I really think he's playing 4D chess here for a couple of reasons. One is he's a business guy, right? And when you start a negotiation, you throw out some, outlandish or ridiculous or some starting point that you're not going to get to get the conversation and the negotiation moving in the direction that you want it to move in. Can you imagine if Trump started with any other argument than, maybe we ought to take guns away from a whole group of people? You can unite both your opposition and your friends, against that. It's funny, you've got groups like the NRA and Second Amendment Foundation and others coming out against this. You had the Human Rights Campaign, the crazies on the left at the Human Rights Campaign against this. So I think this was a way to get the negotiation going down a path that he wanted. I'm not quite sure where he wants to go, but my guess is that we need to make mental health great again in the United States. We need to make mental health institutions great again, because let's be honest, the Second Amendment is an individual right, and it should be treated as such. And I know Trump gets that. I think and the people around him understand that. So if you're going to remove somebody's right to keep and bear arms, that needs to be adjudicated at the individual level. This is why I don't think red flag laws are the right answer. I don't think all these other schemes that the left comes up with to deprive us of our rights is the right approach. What we do need to do is have a conversation about these folks that want to run around flapping in the wind, so to speak, wearing a dress and everything else. We've got to have a conversation about that as a mental illness. That's number one. Trump did that. He started that conversation, which is one we need to have, and it's healthy. The second thing he did is he perhaps opened up a conversation in this country, a long needed conversation about putting people with mental health in an institution where they can get help. And I hope that's where we're headed as a country.
I believe that's the point. I think that would be my guess, and that's where I would put my money. And guys, we can't get to this break quick enough. Honest to goodness, Barbara Whittington puts out in there. I'll take this to the break. Barbara, great comment here, Mark. 20 years ago, 1 out of 320,000 had been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Now it's 1 out of 20 in teenagers. So many kids ticked off by being brainwashed. Barbara, I couldn't use the word I wanted to use there that you put in there, but you get the idea. About being brainwashed. Read the manifesto, and Barbara is dead spot on the my cousin Vinny analogy. Dead on, blank accurate. We'll be back to continue the conversation right after the break. Don't go away. Back at you guys.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sebastian Gorka, letting you know that the Desperado Sport Fishing Crew in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and our right to bear arms. Now, back to Mark Walters.
Wow, on the downside of this hour already. Buckle down, guys. It's going to fly right by. Welcome back in the Car Firearms Group studios with me and all of our affiliates, hundreds of you around the country. We appreciate every one of you. Thank you for being tuned in today. I hope you're enjoying the conversation as much as we are all enjoying bringing it to you, as we do every single week now, 17 years in on this massive radio show. We appreciate every single one of you and all of our great guests. And, of course, we're sitting in front of the CZ Firearms microphone here at the Armed American Radio's Patriot Mobile Ranch, and it's all brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Guys, we've got the best group of partners we've ever had on this program. Every single one of them is an absolute no-brainer. And it took a long time to amass this great group of partners. Please support them all. You can get some great products over at armedamericanradio.com. Bud's Gun Shop Online is our exclusive online retailer. Bud's Gun Shop Online. They have everything you want and need everything that they have. Support them. No matter what accessory you need, Bud's has it. And that's a true blanket statement. I hate blanket statements, but that one's legit. Anything you want, they have, and they serve millions, over 5 million customers. So please visit them, budsgunshop.com. And when you do that, that says thanks for supporting Armed American Radio. And you can find, again, all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com. Brad, let me flip over to you. I'm going to stay on this topic for just a moment because Texas Huntsman in the chat has a great comment. Says there's a massive difference between recognizing that the transgender issues is a problem and a mental health issue that must be addressed, and asking 2A supporters to agree to deny constitutional rights to a whole class of people. We are never going to agree with that, and he is spot on with that comment, which is why I think there's more in play here, as we just heard Ryan and Justin articulate as well, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's the case. I mean, you know, we'll see how things play out. I mean, sometimes I think this is maybe one of the, if there's a downside to the Trump administration, I think sometimes they do throw things against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
You know, this could be that, or they could be, like I said, they could be kind of toying with the opposition to get them to, again, take a position that they're not really that comfortable with, and they can look absurd while doing it. I mean, right now on social media, they're defending, you know, drug smugglers, you know, coming from Venezuela now. So, you know, we'll see how it pans out. But, I mean, I hope you're correct and that this is actually just a move by the Trump administration to make Democrats look as ridiculous as they actually are.
Which they've been very, very good at. And I do want to point out, too, AWR pointed this out in his piece, guys, over at Breitbart News. Trans gun ban update ATF form lets gun buyers identify as male, female, or non-binary. Now, that's question number 14 on the 4473 form, guys, which is your background check form from the ATF, was changed from exclusively male or female during the Biden administration, giving gun buyers the third option of non-binary, which just kind of, again, pushes me into that this is probably a trial balloon thing here. But we're going to be here to cover it when whatever happens, happens. That's what we're going to do. Justin, let me go to you. There's Seventh Circuit. I was talking about this in the first hour of the show as well. But the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has, let's say, they upheld an Illinois public transit concealed carry ban, Justin. And this is interesting for a number of reasons, because the district court found that banning carry on public transport, concealed carry, was unconstitutional. Here's what the judge had to say when the three-judge panel of the Seventh Circuit reversed the lower court and upheld the ban on public transport. The Second Amendment protects an individual's right to self-defense. It does not bar the people's representatives from enacting laws consistent with our nation's historical tradition of regulation that ensure public transportation systems remain free from accessible firearms. We are asked whether the state may temporarily disarm its citizens as they travel in crowded and confined metal tubes, unlike anything the founders envisioned. We draw from the lessons of our nation's historical regulatory traditions and find no Second Amendment violation in such a regulation. So we've got a couple references to the Bruin case without mentioning Bruin by name, Justin, in this decision. And what came up in the conversation with AWR, when I want to go with you, Greg and I did some research really quick during a break. Justin, are you familiar with any public transportation that existed at the time of the founding? The best that we could come up would be some kind of stagecoach line or something like that. And what Greg found on just doing a cursory Google search on that was there was no banning or a place to store firearms on board such type of transportation at the time. Yet everybody, it was best, because there were no lockboxes, to have their weapons close to their person. So I don't understand that analogy there at all, but I'd love to bring it up and talk with you about it, because yet again, this is just another stretch from activist judges one more time trying to invoke Bruin that will likely fail on its face when appealed, Justin.
Well, I would tend to agree with you, Mark. I mean, the only, other than, the stagecoach or the early railroads, you had like the ocean crossing wooden sailboat. They didn't really ban guns on those either. So I don't know what this judge is smoking.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what we were trying to figure out. We took a little bit deeper dive in the conversation during a break. Justin, thank you for the comments. Ryan, I'm not familiar with any, and, that just means I'm not familiar with any. That doesn't mean they're, that didn't exist. I'm just telling you I'm not familiar with anything in a public transportation setting back during the founding. Rails didn't pick up until the mid-19th century, late 19th century for that matter. Stages, of course, we're familiar with that. Clearly there was some type of transport from, point A to point B, and I find it very difficult that to somehow concoct some type of analogy that this judge came up with. Ryan, can you think of anything that might uphold this on appeal, which is certainly to be appealed, I'm sure?
Now, this is certainly beyond my scope of knowledge. But never leave it to the left to come up with some cockamamie scheme to try to figure out how to deprive a group of people or all people, particularly law-abiding citizens, their right to carry firearms. Never mind that nothing in this rule will prevent convicted felons, gangsters, criminals from carrying a firearm on such conveyance, as they might have called it at the time of the founding. But anyway, that's it's absolutely ridiculous. It's disarming one side of the population. It's disarming the law-abiding side of the population, for that matter. And we saw that horrific tragedy play out in North Carolina, where that young woman was stabbed in the neck. Now, again, I don't know that there was time for her, had she been carrying, to protect herself. But this will go back to the previous conversation. The very fact that these mentally ill folks are choosing targets based on knowing that the people inside are disarmed.
Yep.
There might be a deterrent effect. I think we could probably prove that if that school had been protected by armed security, that shooter, trans or not, would have picked a different target. And we know that I believe that the guy on the light rail would have probably chosen a different venue to pick a target had he thought that he might be met with deadly force.
Yeah, and Brad, we'll go to you right now, and then we're going to get cut by a break, and we'll come back to you on this. I'm glad you brought up the North Carolina incident, again, reading my mind, because it's a perfect segue from what we're talking about here, because we just saw this horrific crime happen in North Carolina, Brad. To Ryan's point, I don't think this woman, I've seen the video, it's terrible. So let me take this to the break, Brad, and when we come back, I'll go directly with you for your response. She was ambushed. She didn't see this coming. She was sitting there on the train, had her head in a phone, just minding her own business, when she was stabbed from behind in the neck. And this guy continues to walk around the train, dripping blood all over the place. Her blood, I might add. That was a terrible crime. No one else on that train was armed. I don't know that she could have stopped it, likely because it was an ambush that just came out of nowhere. But anyone else on that train could have put him down legally, under the assumption that he clearly had just committed a forcible felony and would likely have done it again. So it would have been a pure case of self-defense. Brad, we'll go to you with that when we come back for the final segment of Armed American Radio's Monster Cast. We'll continue the conversation with the guys right after this. Don't go away. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. Final segment of the 3-hour national broadcast today. Told you it was going to whip right by. It always does. Welcome back to the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today in front of the CZ Platinum microphone here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. And, of course, all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association and another one of our just no-brainer partners, attorneysonretainer.us. Evil is real. I want you to pay attention to what we're getting ready to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is why you want one of these, this Attorneys on Retainer card in your wallet should you have to act in a case like this, which no one did, but we'll go ahead and use it as an example because it's real. Evil is real, and you know that. That's why you carry a gun. So make sure you have legal protection, and it's real simple to do. Just a quick phone call or visit to attorneysonretainer.us/AAR, and your butt is covered. You've got attorneys who specialize in nothing but self-defense law. It's that simple. So visit them, please. Sign up over there. Use the AAR promo code, attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Take advantage of the $50 off the $100 sign-up. It's $35 a month. It's cheaper when you multiply it out by month than 1 hour of a defense attorney. And believe me, you're not going to want a free one if you find yourself in that situation. Attorneysonretainer.us. Absolute no-brainer. Just get it done. If you've been on the fence, don't be that person that finds yourself in a situation that says, man, oh man, I should have listened to what they were talking about. Just do it in advance. Real simple to do. You can visit armedamericanradio.com or attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Brad Premo, let's go back to you on this. Talking about what happened in North Carolina, she likely didn't have any time. I'll give you some more detail on that when we're done with this part of the discussion because I do want to carry this to the end of the show today. That's a horrible story. But, Brad, if someone else on that train had a weapon, could have put him down, and it would have been very legal to have done so because of what he had just done. He had just murdered this woman. He stabbed her 3 times in the throat. It's horrific. It's caught on video, and that video is now public, and it's awful to see. Brad, take it away.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, so
yeah, you've seen it.
First and foremost, yeah. My first thought is, you're sitting there watching this young lady, nose buried in the phone on public transit, dude sitting behind her. She's not aware of her surroundings, and it's just another example of you've got to be heads up when you're in public, no matter where you're at. And sometimes, I know me personally, like, I do my best to not have people behind me. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just something that I just do. And so I sit in places, I sit, in a way that I don't have anybody coming up behind me or anybody behind me. I can't keep an eye on them. I try to see the whole room from wherever I'm at. And, it's inconvenient at times. And frankly, it kind of sucks to have to live that way. Mm-hmm. But, what we're finding out from, the Trump administration and the way they're going about all this is that, the guy that did this crime is a multiple convicted felon, violent felon. And what is he doing roaming the streets?
Yeah, dating back to 2011, Brad.
Yes. But the bottom line is that we don't have to live this way. And living this way, living the fact that we are so, I hate to say it, so just used to the idea that we have to just live amongst these violent animals on our streets. It's just a fact of life. And you have, J.D. Pritzker, anyways, that man
open mouth and
Illinois.
Donuts. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he's sitting there saying, well, big cities are just going to have crime. As if we have to accept violent animals as being our neighbors when we don't have to live this way. And that's just the bottom line. And so, like, this little incident is a microcosm of the fact that, like, one, we have to behave a certain way because there are violent people amongst us. And you know what? We probably will never get rid of them completely. But at the same time, we don't have to make it easy for them. We don't have to live this way. We can get rid of them if we just have the will to do it.
You're absolutely correct. And Justin, that takes me to this. And I do want to point out this is a beautiful young girl, 23-year-old Erna Zarutska. She was from Ukraine. And again, when you see this video, again, this guy pulled out a pocket knife, opened it, stood up behind her, and stabbed her 3 times in the neck. And it's horrible to watch. But where I'm going here, Justin, with this is America is now seeing, Justin, the failure of these leftist anti-gun policies, Justin, and it's getting harder and harder and harder with all eyes on this, because what Trump is doing with crime in D.C., et cetera, what we know is coming in Chicago, and the Democrats apparently appeasing criminals, et cetera, it's getting harder and harder for them to defend their anti-gun ways, Justin. And I personally believe we're at a tipping point based on what we just heard from Brad and the conversation at hand. I think the country's at a tipping point. And I think it does not bode well for the Democrats and does not bode well for gun control as well when people see these things happen and know that there's ways to defend against it, Justin.
Well, when that republic was founded, you could use deadly force not only for defense of life, but also for defense of property.
Correct.
And when we used to shoot, thieves for stealing our property, we never had any problems like this. So maybe we should go back to the way we used to be.
Yeah, and a lot of states have that. In fact, you can do that in Texas, et cetera, and there's others as well. Ryan, to Justin's point and to Brad's point, I think, based on what you just heard, that it just kind of bolsters my argument that I think America's at a tipping point. We are fed up with this. I don't think we're going to take it anymore. There are options to fix these things, and I think America is well on its way to doing just that under this Trump 2.0. Agree or disagree?
No, I agree, and I just had an idea while I was sitting here thinking about this. Rather than banning people from carrying a firearm, I think we ought to reward citizens that put down these career criminal animals that are attacking people and putting people either killing them, hurting them, or putting them in great fear of bodily injury. If you were to take one of these dudes out, I think you should get a tax rebate in the equivalent to what it would cost to house that career criminal for the rest of his natural life in prison. So maybe we could probably get the citizenry turned around and get a tax rebate for taking these guys out and saving the taxpayers some much needed dollars.
I can think of other ways to save the taxpayers much needed dollars as well. And I want to point out, guys, that Breitbart is making this very clear, but the mainstream media is ignoring the story out of North Carolina. And let me give you some quotes from X, from Cruz, who said the corporate media is fundamentally corrupt and dishonest. Musk wrote 0 on a tweet, X, formerly known as Twitter. 0, meaning 30 words from the corporate mainstream, terrible, corrupt media in this country. You don't hate the media enough was another statement. Another one here from Carrie Lake. The mainstream media is disgusting. Shouldn't the left care about this? One person, unknown person, asked. Ukraine, check. Immigrant, check. What's with the silence? And you have another one here that says, horrific story, and yet the media is ignoring it because they don't like the truth that it reveals. This has to change. The truth should be the guiding principle for all news outlets. And you've got the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department saying that this guy has had multiple arrests, as Brad pointed out, dating back to 2011. And the Charlotte mayor, a Democrat, issued a statement thanking media partners and community members for not sharing or reposting the footage of the incident after the Charlotte Area Transit System, which they refer to as CATS, released video footage of the attack. It's disgusting, ladies and gentlemen, but I do believe we're at a tipping point. Brad Premo, CEO, Lead Slingers, combat vet, former law enforcement, we love you. Thanks for being here and all of your wisdom and insight every week. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Justin, we're in the Car Firearms Group studios. Thank you for everything that you bring to this program every single week. And Ryan Petty, God bless you and your family for everything you've been through and everything you bring to this discussion in the roundtable every week. Guys, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow because they don't want us to. So until we meet on the radio tomorrow, stay safe. Enjoy what's left of your day. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate it. Great program. Dynamite show. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Guest lineup is always great. Topics are fun, and the wit and wisdom from our guests is fantastic. So I'll leave you with this. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. No self-respecting caveman would have ever been caught outside his cave without his club. My club is sitting right here and right here. So we've got the bases covered. I hope you do too. Stay safe out there, guys. Enjoy what's left of your day, regardless of which coast you're on. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Stay safe. See you on the radio, guys. Thanks for being here.